This is it. I got him. I got him. Got him.
Let's go. 2 in a row.
Nice.
I got the last shot. Let's go.
That was me during Chapter 4, Season 4. What? Oh my god. This is exactly why I'm glad Fortnite OG is ending, because that was just filled with nothing but sweat. That was me experiencing Fortnite OG for the first time. And as you can tell by my reactions in Chapter 4 Season 4 and Fortnite OG, it was completely night and day. So remember when I said that I started Fortnite during Chapter 4 Season 2? That was kinda half true. In fact, I actually played like 2 matches in Chapter 1 Season 6. But Chapter 4 Season 2 was the true starting point. It was my true experience at Fortnite. And if you go back to the clip of me crashing out at the end of the video, it was clear that I was fed up with OG. I did say that I regretted not giving OG some time for me to adapt to. But after going back into it now, I take back what I said. I made a big mistake going back into OG after my first few matches, both squads and solos. I think when it comes to OG, there were a lot of elements that were different from the modern era of Fortnite. You couldn't drive cars, you didn't have any gimmicks to a season, there were no animals, no NPCs to talk to, just grassy green fields and buildings. This was probably why I had a hard time playing with OG. It felt so different from what I experienced in Chapter 4. Not to mention the learning curve I had to experience as well. I remember playing the first few matches in OG, and it was major hell dealing with much experienced players. Fortnite OG was a major mistake in so many ways, and it baffles me to hear that people wanted this to be permanent. I was heavily against this idea because it would do nothing but hurt the game. And this alluded to something that's been a major issue for a while, which I'll get into later on in this video. So I legit thought we would get this one more time. I thought Remix Chapter 2 would be the season Epic was talking about when mentioning that it will come back in 2024. However, Epic threw a curveball at us, announcing and confirming that Fortnite OG will be coming back permanently.
Oh, hell no!
I can't be the only one who thinks making this permanently was a bad idea, especially when we already have Reload. At the very least with Reload, it felt like Chapter 1, but with a creative twist. And surprisingly, it hasn't gotten in the way of VR. But with OG, I pretty much feared that it could potentially get in the way of VR, but only time will tell. I know, I said the same thing when Reload became a thing, but even I can admit that I was wrong about Reload. Still, I don't understand what thought process the people at Epic had when they thought bringing it back permanently was a good idea. If anything, it should have just been a 6-month LTM, going through 1 season per 2 weeks, but even so, OG now has a lot of problems. OG does not have any bots in the mode whatsoever, which is pretty alarming. Now, I'm not saying every match should be filled with bots, but when it comes to a newcomer or someone who is very casual, this is a major problem. Bots in Fortnite is a good thing because it gives casuals a chance to adapt and learn not just to play, but also to improve and get better at the game. That way, if they do want to play with the sweats, they at least know the ins and outs of OG. But now, if a casual player is in a lobby with nothing but sweats, that's not going to be good for them. Hopefully, Epic adds this to OG in the near future. This is Star from the future speaking, and so apparently they did add bot lobbies to OG, which is a very good thing. I'm hoping they don't go overboard on this so that we don't have to hear anything from the competitive side, but I'm just hoping that both casuals and competitors can get used to not only the real lobbies, but also the bot lobbies as well. So yeah, just wanted to make that announce. Just want to make this update. At the very least, cater it towards the less seasoned players, or if you're not going to add bot lobbies, at least not have the modern movement into OG, because literally this is one of the reasons why matches barely last for 10 minutes. And as someone who's 65% casual, 35% competitive, and is 85% a zero build player, I don't see the fun in having matches lasting for less than 15 minutes. Whether it's OG, BR, or Reload, it doesn't matter which mode it is. And when it comes to the weapons, I don't mind the loot pool, and in my opinion, the double pump was way overhyped, making a lot of noise over a common ass weapon is just hilarious to me. But literally in the first match, the moment I landed, I immediately got one-shotted by a great pump in 0 builds. And I heard that the double pump is overpowered. Like, why would Epic think making this overpowered was a good idea? I couldn't care less about it coming back, but at the very least, just nerf it. Don't get rid of it, just nerf it so it does a fair amount of damage. And if you thought reload was too sweaty, literally in the first 2 matches I played, I was instantly gunned down with no fighting chance. But when I switched over to solos for my 3rd match, I actually made it into top 5 because I actually picked a spot that nobody landed in. But trust me, the moment you land, you are already in a sweaty battlefield. Again, casuals who wants to try out OG for the first time should not have to deal with competitive players who does nothing but sweat at the game 24/7. And I think this is why I lead into the biggest issue with OG. This mode is not good for 0 builds. The map is more catered towards build players and not 0 build players. There's so much open space where if you're out in the open, you could get either gunned down or sniped out of nowhere. There's barely any mobility in OG to the point where you have to be very secure of your surroundings. I think it would have been better if Epic actually tweaked the map to make it more suitable for both build and 0 build players, because they're forgetting that 0 builds was introduced in Chapter 3, and at the very least with Remix Chapter 2, it was very suited for both sides of the coin because the map had more going on. There were way more mobility items like the grappler, shockwaves, jetpacks, etc. And you were also able to drive vehicles too. I would much rather go back to Chapter 2 than this, if I'm being honest. But there has to be more mobility in OG, as well as more shields, because there are no minis in this mode. Just big pots, med kits, and slurp juice. Not the legendary one where it replenishes both your shields and health. It's the one where it restores 25% of your shields. And even at that, it is ridiculous to barely find any shields, especially when you're in 0 builds where you constantly need shields and mobility. And if you don't have any of those, you're fucked. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, I know I said I'm mostly a 0 build player, so I can't speak much on this, but I have cousins who play both builds and 0 builds. And I can imagine how extremely sweaty it would get for them if they think of playing OG in builds, especially now that turbo building is a thing. But if you're a builds player, I would like to know if you're having a good or bad experience with this mode. But yeah, there's a lot of issues with OG right now. I didn't like it back then, and I sure as hell don't like it even today. And this does bring up something that I mentioned earlier in the video, but Epic is extremely blinded by nostalgia at this point. This is the 3rd time they've pulled the OG card. They did this with Fortnite OG, they did this with Reload, and now they're doing it again with OG. At the very least with Reload, not only does it have its own gimmick, but it has a much livelier loot pool, the map feels smaller, and there's a lot more mobility. There's something new going on as well. There's a lot of things that's like switching up. This version of Chapter 1 is more funny. Yes, it's pretty sweaty, but it's nowhere near as frustrating as OG. Hell, even with the abysmal bullet drop, I still had some fun in Chapter 5, specifically Seasons 2 and 3 of Chapter 5. OG, however, is nothing but a sweat fest and a nostalgia fest. If OG wasn't a thing last year, Epic wouldn't have to keep relying on old times. But now they're splitting the player base even more with this nostalgia crap. They're now trying their best to please everyone by bringing back Chapter 1 for a 3rd time. It's just sad that Epic is relying so much on nostalgia when something in the past should never be tampered with unless it's for a celebration or for a special thing. I gave OG last year a pass because it was a surprise. It was something that we never expected. It was a surprise season. And what made it special was that it was only there for 1 month, because it encourages you into investing as much time as you can into that season. The same with Remix Chapter 2. Yes, you may dislike the rappers, but you have to understand it is still Chapter 2. It was also a 1 month season for you to experience the Chapter 2 map. And if you weren't there at those times, then that's okay. Now, I hate to say this, but if battle passes should never return, I can say the same for chapters. Like, I can tell you this right now, if they announced that Chapter 3 or Chapter 4 would return in some form, I'd be ridiculing and calling out Epic on that, because it's bad enough that you're constantly bringing back chapter 1. Now they might do the same for modern chapters as well, and that's exactly what I don't want. What makes these chapters special is that they were only there for a limited time. Now, based on these arguments that I presented, you may think that I'm a hater of chapter 1 and that I care too much about metaverse slop. That is 100% not true. Look, there are so many things that I actually do like about OG. I love the old weapons it has. I admire the cartoony scenery, and the POIs aren't that bad. I don't hate OG at all. I spent so much time playing it last year, and I was able to grind out the original OG pass, which is a really good battle pass if you ask me. I really tried to like OG. It had a few elements that I enjoyed. Without it, I wouldn't even be able to learn how to use the grappler, which is a really good mobility item. But now that OG is a permanent mode, suddenly it just loses its charm. If there's one good outcome of this I will bring up, is that Epic is considering bringing back old live events for players to relive and for newcomers to experience. I think that's a really good thing to happen, and I really can't wait for that to actually experience for the first time. So yeah, rock on for that, Epic. I will say that's actually a good thing. I guarantee that if Epic had just made this into a 6-month LTM, I would be singing a different tune. But the fact is, whether it's permanent or not, this is something I cannot have fun with unless I'm with my friends or family. Again, I don't mind it coming back, but I am against it being permanent. However, if they're keeping this mode forever, they need to make this mode very fun for both builds and zero build players. They need to add more mobility to the loot pool. They need to add more shields, as well as adding minis. And they also need to add bot lobbies for inexperienced players or casual players that do not want to sweat and rather have a fun and chilling time with the mode. Epic, if you can make all of that and make it more fun, it would be very beneficial for both sides of the coin. Maybe when I'm with my friends or my family and they want to play OG together, I'll join in as well. But I think most of my time will be spent on playing chapter 6, since in my opinion, it's a lot more fun. Now, if you're enjoying Fortnite OG, more power to you. If you're thinking of buying the OG pass, or hell, even the new Spider-Verse cosmetics start in the shop at the time of this recording, then consider using my support creator code, which is StarTastic. But until then, this is Starter Protagonist signing out. As always, Goki Genyo, and have a StarTastic day, everyone. Oh my god.
Lucky I made him low. Yeah, lucky I made him low. If I didn't do that,
I am so
bro, if I didn't 2v won that, no one would have won that bitch.
Oh my god. If you enjoyed today's video, then be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn those notifications on to join the Star Nation. Also, be sure to follow my Twitter, and while you're at it, check out my previous video. Now.